It's like it looks like the the little gums of his mouth is pretty dark, and so is like his gums are so dark. It's kind of dark as Nightmare, which is the next one, has the same gums. But what I'm thinking is that Nightmare Fredbear takes off his like outer layer of skin, like his golden skin, and then just puts on or just has this dark black looking.
Hey everyone, sorry for taking forever to get this video out. Originally, I was just going to make a sequel to my last FNaF theory vid, just focusing on FNaF 3, but there just wasn't really anything to talk about. FNaF 3 has probably one of the most straightforward narratives in the entire franchise. It just doesn't lead to a lot of actual theorizing. Part of that was because it was originally supposed to cap off a trilogy, but all in all, what was there to talk about? The only thing people still theorize about was the true identity of the purple guy, and it really didn't seem to matter that much because he's now just Springtrap. Anyway, because of this, I've just decided to skip FNaF 3 and go right to FNaF 4. This is the game where Scott decided to do a complete 180 and make the game super vague, which led to a lot of debate as to what was happening. So, without further ado, let's get started with... Okay, so this is the most well-known one, and also one that a lot of people seem to agree was canon at the time of release, but has since been retconned. If you can't already tell by the obvious title, Dream Theory simply states that every single game in the franchise was just a coma dream dreamt up by the crying child before he died. There is a lot of evidence for this. Plush Trap, the toys of Chica missing her beak, hearing a grandfather clock ringing at the end of every night in the previous games, the list just goes on and on. There's not really much else to say, it's an unsatisfying end for sure, and that's partly why Scott decided to change this later on and keep the games rolling, but I had to mention this nonetheless. Alright, the big one. This has been the focal point of countless debates even to this day. What was in the mysterious box at the end of Night 8? What could the text, "perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now," mean? Well, while not super liked then, nowadays the most popular answer is proof that it was all a dream. Whatever that entails, I don't know, but seeing as how Scott himself said he's changed the contents of the box like 3 times, and we know that Dream Theory was retconned, I think it's safe to say that that answer was the correct one. But that wasn't the only theory. Another popular theory for the time was that the box contained the puppet. This is partially due to its mysterious absence in this game, while every other animatronic was referenced in some way, and the fact that the marionette was already associated with boxes. It also helps that the puppet already seems pretty compactable and could possibly fit in that thing. People also speculated that it could be teasing the upcoming Halloween DLC, but that pretty quickly went away as soon as that came out. One interesting theory that not a lot of people talked about was that it contained evidence of Purple Guy's crimes, like photos of his victims and stuff. This could tie in with the text, as that evidence could be representative of all the pain and trauma caused by him, thus best left forgotten. But of course, as we know, all of those were wrong. Because inside the box was a string, and if you pulled that string, it would reveal a secret compartment containing the embarrassing photo of SpongeBob at the Christmas party!
Merry Christmas, SpongeBob!
This is a cool theory, which again might have actually been canon at some point. This theory states that Nightmare literally is death itself, because he only appears after we hear the hospital flatline noise. It's almost kinda sad. Seeing as how we know the crying child died, maybe originally Nightmare canonically killed you in that final night. After seeing constant coma nightmares of the animatronics, his view of death was twisted to look like them as he took him to the afterlife. But now that all of that can't be canon anymore, who knows what Nightmare actually is. This theory mainly stemmed from the original Plush Trap teaser, where it kinda looked like he was being held up by strings, and strings equals puppet, I guess. After the game released, this theory mostly disappeared, but a few people still thought there could be some connection. For what reason, I don't know. This is an interesting one that even today might have some merit. The theory is pretty self-explanatory. It basically just states that the Halloween DLC added on October 31st isn't just a cool reskin of the game, but actually canon to the franchise. Back when FNaF 4 was the latest game, there wasn't really much evidence for this, but now these Halloween versions of the animatronics have appeared in multiple games. most notably of which Nightmarion, who not only returns in Ultimate Custom Night alongside the rest of the Halloween cast, but had appearances in both Help Wanted and Security Breach. Now, personally, I think this is kind of a reverse situation going on here in that, with most of these previous theories being originally canon and retconned later, I think the Halloween DLC wasn't canon originally and was later made to be semi-canon. I don't really know the specifics of it all, and maybe I am going a little off the mark, but I'm actually really interested to see what you guys think about this theory. Alright, this is a pretty lame theory that states that not only are Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear one and the same, but Nightmare is actually inside Nightmare Fredbear, and after Night 6, he peeled off his outer shell. Really, the only evidence for this is that Nightmare Fredbear's gums are the same color as Nightmare. And I guess they operate pretty similarly gameplay-wise. This one's a little frustrating for me because, yeah, obviously this isn't true, but is there any evidence against it? I mean, have you ever seen these two in the same room before? Oh boy, this one's a doozy. So, this one claims that FNaF 4 isn't the first game in the timeline, but the last one. The first point of evidence people used was the "What have you brought home" line used in the trailer for the game. They stated that since the ending newspaper in FNaF 3 said they'd be auctioning off the surviving things from the Fazbear Frights fire, someone bought animatronics from that auction and brought them home, much to the terror of the kid living there. And we're not playing as the same kid from the one in the minigames. That bite victim's soul is still with all those auctioned off goods, causing the kid in the main gameplay segments to see the twisted versions of all the animatronics his parents brought home. As PokeFan993 so eloquently puts it, we don't play as the bitten child plays with us. Okay, a lot wrong with this. For one, why is it the crying child that's possessing all this Fazbear memorabilia? Why hasn't he nightmarified anything before? How does this take into account the missing children's incident? Absolutely bonkers theory, but can you imagine if this one was real? So this theory was mostly talked about before the game's release and kind of fizzled out afterwards. It basically stated that you'll be playing as game creator Scott Cawthon himself. People's reasoning for this was that Scott has stated in interviews before that he's had nightmares of the animatronics in his games, and because of that, we would be playing out what went on in his mind. Now, obviously that didn't happen, but interestingly enough, the Joy of Creation fan games would use elements of this, so I wonder if that was intentional and they might have been inspired by this theory.
The cupcake in the fourth game is always behind you, almost as it is hiding from something.
We believe he's the Purple Man. When the kids brought him to Fredbear and he died, the puppet put him in the cupcake to show him what it's like to be an animatronic.
Thank you for watching.
Subscribe for more FNaF theories and gameplay.
Alright, bear with me for this one. It's a lot. So, from what I'm understanding, this theory says that not only is the crying child the purple guy, but he's a different purple guy from the one who was spring locked in 3, and he's also the cupcake. This theory comes from an old YouTuber known as Mini Marvel Theory, who has long since disappeared from the platform. Before he even starts his theory, he goes off the assumption that the purple guy pink guy theory from FNaF 2 is correct, or at the very least there exists two killers. He then states that in the games, the cupcake seems to hide away from the other animatronics. Because of this, the cupcake must be scared of the animatronics. And you know who else is scared of the animatronics? That's right, the FNaF 4 crying child. And why is the crying child scared of the animatronics? That's because he killed them when they were alive and stuffed them into the suits, and now they want revenge. So, when the crying child was bitten by Fredbear, the puppet decided to put his soul into the cupcake to, quote, show him what it was like to be an animatronic. Okay, where to start with this one? Oh, just a side note, I'm not making fun of the kids for making these outlandish theories, I'm just making fun of the theories themselves. We were all kids once, and in fact, one of the theories on this list was made by me when I was a kid. I won't tell you which one, you'll have to theorize that for yourself. But anyway, back to the theory. I like this one. It's super wrong, barely has any evidence, and it can't work narratively or continuity-wise, but it's just the right amount of goofiness that I like in my FNaF theories. It almost brings me back to the good old days of FNaF 1 theories. Okay, last one of the video. This one's more of a bonus theory because I can't really pinpoint an exact date as to when people first started throwing this theory out there. Basically, people thought that Scott Cawthon was a code name and no such person actually existed. This would branch into other theories, like maybe he's actually a massively well-known developer trying something new, or he might have been in some controversy beforehand and wanted to hide his identity for some reason. Unfortunately, these were always quickly disproven, almost immediately, as it's pretty easy to find interviews, other games, and even pictures of himself, even back then. And that will do it for this video. I gotta be honest, there were a lot more goofy theories than I was expecting for this one. And I've also started researching sister location theories, and let me tell you, there's also some good ones in there. But in the meantime, if you're still hearing this, thank you for watching. Remember to like it if you liked it, subscribe if you really liked it, and I'll see you next time.